All right. Good morning. So, being Father's Day, James, we thought we'd do a little car shopping. So I called the lady and asked her if she had something that fits 6 people. And she said, I do. I have something that fits 6 people with no problems. So I had to hang up the phone because I don't know 6 people without problems. So, being Father's Day, we had to get the dad joke out of the way. My kids, especially Oriah, love my dad jokes. So today, I think the title is Measure of a Man, and I've always liked that slogan, but I don't know that we've truly thought about it. And in society, the measure of a man. How do we measure a man? One time in my life, I thought it was by the amount of stuff I might have. So during men's breakfast yesterday, the guy was saying the same thing. You buy a new truck, you buy a four-wheeler, you buy a motorcycle. Does that make you more of a man? No, it doesn't. Is it the size of his belly? Because I'm getting pretty manly. I think that's just wisdom. I'm packing it on. But surely none of the great men in the Bible were measured by the things they had. Maybe a little, depending on how many goats you had. I don't know. But I wanted to take a look at a few of the fatherly men that are in the Bible. Like we can start with Noah. It's a good children's story. But I'll measure say Noah was a man. I mean, he built a giant boat by himself with tools. And I don't know if anybody's ever been to Kentucky and seen the Ark. It's unimaginable that somebody could build that by hand. So by that aspect, he's a man, a man's man. But I'm going to use some creative licensing here, and maybe your imagination isn't the same as mine, but I see Noah sitting outside and digging in his garden. It's a little dry, a little dusty, and he hears God talk to him, and he says, Noah, build a boat. A moat? Because irrigation would be good. No, I want you to build a boat, and not just a little boat. I want you to build a giant boat, This boat has to be big enough for all these animals, a boatload of animals. A boatload. That was unintentional right there. But a boatload of animals, 7 other people, you're going to repopulate Earth with this boat. And so Noah begins. He listens to what God says. And God asked Noah to do it because he knew that Noah had a heart for God. And in Genesis 6:8, it says, Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. And in 6:9, it continues, and it says, Noah was a righteous man, the only blameless person living on earth at the time, and he walked in close fellowship with God. So out of all the people on the earth, he's the only blameless man, only blameless person. So that's pretty big, but being faithful, Noah did what he was asked. He trusted in God's warning. And Noah, being a man of God and being faithful, he protected his family, which, in my opinion, a man obviously protects his family. That's one of the first things that I would think a man would do. He loves his family. He protects his family. But Noah prepared the ark. Noah remained faithful to God, even with the evil around. And can you imagine the verbal bashing that he took from everybody who thought he was off his rocker? building this giant boat in the middle of, I don't know if they had any lakes even close, but let's just build a boat in the middle of nowhere. And Noah wasn't perfect, but he protected his family, and he continued the populating of the earth, all by being faithful to God. And I'm willing to bet that Noah, he stayed humble throughout all this. I'm sure that once the rains began and they were all on their boat, he was not running back and forth to the, what's the front of the deck called? Bow and the stern. I don't think he was running to the bow and the stern saying, who's the man? You know? Was I right? You guys were all wrong? I'm on my boat. I'm willing to bet that he was, terrified about what was happening around him and not enjoying the whole situation, really. And so this one, another man in the Bible that's a little lesser known, Jethro. Does anybody know Jethro? I mean, he's kind of like the guy, like, when I was a kid, I used to always go into Ames and look at those little license plates for your bicycle. They never had Gilbert. Never, ever. Didn't matter what state I was in, there was no Gilbert for a license plate. So, needless to say, I never had the license plate, but that was better for outrunning the police.
Something to be proud of, honey.
Well, it's just a joke. I couldn't outrun the police on my bicycle. So, Exodus 18, 17 through 18, it says, "This is not good." Moses' father-in-law exclaimed, "You're going to wear yourself out, and the people too. This job is too heavy a burden for you to handle all by yourself." Now, how many men in here have heard that from people? I know Pastor Allen has. Like, we all tell him, slow down, just ask for help, And I know most of us, and definitely myself included, when people tell us to ask for help, it's almost more of a challenge to say, pretty sure I can do this on my own. I don't need help, until I come inside and I'm angry at everybody in the house because nobody came out to help me, and I dropped a stove on the ground that I was trying to pick up. And then my wife just looks at me and is like, "Ask for help? We don't know what you're doing out there." I'm like, "Well, you guys should figure it out." But I don't know. Even the kids have figured me out by now. They just kind of shake it off and let me throw my little fit until I'm done. And then realize that I did need help, and now I got a broken stove on the ground, and I have to fix it. But yeah, I think that's just a man thing, to try and do it by yourself and think that you're more than capable. So Jethro is Moses' father-in-law, and of course, they're all together below Mount Sinai. And they're all hanging out. There's a whole bunch of people there. And Moses, he was the go-to guy for any and all problems. And apparently, those people had a lot of problems. Since Scripture says, Exodus 18:13, the next day Moses took his seat to hear the people's disputes against each other, and they waited for him from morning until evening. So this guy's sitting there all day long, listening to people complain, listening to he said, she said, he did this, it offended me, I'm angry. But they think he's the voice of God, so he's got to listen to it all. And meanwhile, Jethro watched the whole thing, sat back and watched his son-in-law taking the abuse, being overwhelmed by all the people, and just listening. And so Jethro asked Moses in Exodus 18:14-16, he asked him, "You're going to wear yourself out," which we read that, but I'll keep going. And the people too. This job is too heavy a burden for you to handle all by yourself. Now listen to me and let me give you a word of advice. And may God be with you. You should continue to be the people's representative before God, bringing their disputes to him. Teach them God's decrees and give them his instructions. Show them how to conduct their lives. So basically he's saying, get you some people that you can trust to help you out with this job. And now Moses could have been like we were just talking about, most men, and said, I don't need any help. I can just do it myself. At least I know it's done right. I may have that issue at work. Friday I had a road call in Lindenville and Littleton, and when I got back, the other guy that works with me was like, yeah, the guy down there just called and warned me and said you were angry. It's not the words he used, but I was like, not mad. And he's like, well, he said you came flying in the yard, jumped out of the truck and fixed the truck. And I was like, well, yeah, I did, but I was just trying to get it done. So now I know that all the guys that work under me call each other and let them know what kind of mood I'm in. Don't know if it makes me feel good or bad, but yeah, I have these conversations with my wife daily too about not getting stuff done as fast as I think it should get done, but I guess I gotta learn. But Moses, he listens to Jethro's advice. In 24, it says, Moses listened to his father-in-law's advice and followed his suggestions. And so, Jethro may not seem, what he said or what he did may not seem that big, not like Noah, not like Moses, but God gave us all strengths, and he gave us all things to do to be part of the body and to continue the body on. And so, if Jethro just sat back and didn't do anything for Moses, and Moses gets burned out on what he does, we don't know what would happen. It would have changed, obviously, the things in the Bible. We don't know. But in 1 Corinthians 12:24, it says, while the more honorable parts do not require this special care, God has put the body together such that extra honor and care are given to those parts that have less dignity. So that means, in my opinion, that all of us have a place. It doesn't matter if we're way up here or way down here, and we all have a place in God's plan that we need to take responsibility for to keep the body together. So Jethro's role is just as important as Noah's. Well, and in our church, we have many men that make up this body, and we all have different roles. And throughout the years, there's been many men here that have given me words of advice, and I was at Linda's house last night. Me and Jeremiah were mowing, and I thought about Pastor Paul and his "How you be" every time he saw me, and it just reminded me that I've had good words from Sean, I've had words from Paul, I've had words from new Paul, old Paul. But many men here have talked to me, and it's been great. I have a good friend that has not had children of his own, but he's been an influence to so many youth around here. I'm talking about Phyllis's husband that, he had Dave's kids. He's now hanging out with Jeremiah, and I trust him fully with my son that he's going to be a good influence on him. But he's filling his role in God's plan. He may not have been blessed with his own children, but he's raised many. We have Dr. Allen, who's willing to wear himself out, mowing the lawn or giving a hand, and over the years he's helped so many people and been there for so many people and raised so many men to be a man, a godly man, that I think that we have a lot of guys, and some of us have weaknesses, but the guy beside us isn't weak in that area, so they step in and fill in that weak link, and it keeps the men here we have solidified and keeps the body in Christ here. So I'm not sure if there's a certain way to measure a man, but I just know that when I meet and hang out with a confident, God-filled man, I would prefer to stand beside him and hope that I can compare with the men around me that all make me a better man. I can vouch for that. And that's about it. But we have, I don't know if Pastor James wants to come up. I need a masculine model. I didn't know if you could find one.
Hey, I'm just glad you weren't preaching the, women sit down and be quiet message.
So we got a couple things here, and we have plenty of these keychains. Wait, don't show it. We have plenty of keychains here, so if you guys want to bring some home to your husbands, they're just it's a little keychain with a compass on it. And I thought this was etched in the back, but it's not. And it says, "A man who walks with God always reaches his destination." So go ahead and help yourselves to these. And then in honor of one of our fathers in the church, James came up with this slogan, and we put the compass on it, and it says, "Going farther with the farther."
Tell them why we worded it that way.
I did, because Pastor Allen sometimes puts a little R in his father, and James has always picked up on that. And this is to honor Dr. Allen. It's something.
Wear them next Sunday. And show them off to him.
So we have some multiple sizes here, and I'm pretty sure we get enough for everybody. So you guys, I don't know how we want to hand them out.
I don't know. Did you put these in categories?
I didn't put them in anywhere. I just grabbed the box. Extra large. Raise your hands.